Welcome to California State University San Bernardino Work-Study Supervisors Training, brought to you by the Office of Financial Aid and Scholarships. The topics covered in this presentation include work-study eligibility requirements, supervisor responsibilities, work-study terms of employment, posting jobs, placement, time reporting and deadlines. Be prepared at the end of this presentation to respond to questions to assist us with validating your knowledge about this presentation. Thank you. Students eligible to participate in the work-study program must adhere to the Student Employment Policy. Students must be a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident, file the FAFSA application to demonstrate financial need, be enrolled in at least half-time status or 6 units, maintain good academic standing and satisfactory academic progress. Work-study students and supervisors must adhere to the provisions as cited in the Terms of Employment and Work Authorization. The following information are rules and regulations in order to participate in the work-study program. Students may not work during class. Do not permit your student to work in excess of their work-study award. Your department will be required to provide an account number on the work authorization to charge for any amount earned beyond your student's allocation. Monitor your students' earnings. Students must take a 30-minute unpaid break after 6 consecutive hours. Students cannot exceed 20 hours a week during sessions and breaks. Students may only work a maximum of 8 hours a day. Students cannot work overtime, holidays, or during campus closures. Please do not permit your student worker to report hours on a different day or pay period. Work study ends if a student is subject to academic probation, disqualification, graduates from the university, or enrolls in less than half-time, or if funding is exhausted by the student and/or the program. Student workers cannot serve in staff-related positions. Students must also be supervised at all times. Students who falsify timesheets are subject to termination and disciplinary action by Student Conduct and Ethical Development Department. Supervisors must adhere to the provisions cited in the work-study terms of employment. Determine the wage rate based on the work-study wage table. Pay rate changes must be submitted on the work-study change termination request form. All requests must be pre-approved by the work-study coordinator. All changes become effective the first day of the following pay period. Supervisors must directly supervise their student workers, monitor student work-study earnings, not to exceed their work-study award. For example, if your financial work-study student was awarded $4,500 for the year, they can only earn $2,250 per term. This will allow your student to maximize their work-study award during the year and not run out of funding before the end of the term. Submit a copy of the student listing and timesheet on a timely basis. Notify work-study immediately with any changes in your student's employment, changes in supervisor, and prior to terminating a work-study student. Regulate the maximum 20 hours per week. Verify your student's enrollment status and complete the annual evaluation process. Background checks may be required by all student employees. Students cannot begin employment until all clearances have been met. Background checks may be required by the following student employee positions. Position requires being in regular direct contact with minors. Position requires access to stored criminal offender record information. Position requires access to patients, drugs, or medication. Position requires access to or control on a regular basis of amounts greater than $10,000 in cash, checks, credit cards, and/or credit card account information. Students cannot begin employment until all clearances have been met. The Office of Financial Aid and Scholarships determines the student's eligibility to participate in the work-study program. The student will receive the work authorization, terms of employment, and a routing slip. The student is instructed to view the job listings and contact the supervisor to arrange an interview. The student and supervisor complete the work-study authorization and the terms of employment at the time of the interview. The student will then take the work authorization, terms of employment, and an unlaminated Social Security card, a State of California ID, a confidentiality and compliance form that is required for all new hires, to the Student Employment Office. Student workers must complete the entire hiring process before they begin working. If the student starts working before this process is complete, the department will be charged 100% of the student's wages. The student receives a stamped routing slip as proof that they have completed the hiring process and may begin working. Students and supervisors receive and retain a copy of the terms of employment and work authorization for their records.
Please note we have updated to an online process. Please contact the Federal Work-Study Office if you have any questions.
This is an example of the work-study authorization. Part A is to be completed by the student by providing their demographic information. Part B and C, the supervisor is required to complete and sign and date the form. If this position is an on-campus employment, the supervisor will be requested to provide an alternative department account string number to be charged in the event the student exceeds their work-study allocation. This is an example of the work-study terms of employment. In order to participate in the work-study program, both the supervisor and the student must comply and adhere to all the provisions as cited in the terms of employment. The student, supervisor, and program administrator are required to sign the terms of employment. The following instructions will assist you with posting your work-study position. Supervisors can access the work-study online job posting through the on-campus student employment posting site. Select the faculty and staff icon on that page. The on-campus student employment posting login page appears. Supervisors may log in using their email address and password. Contact the CSUSB Career Center with any login issues. Please note, justification must be provided on the work authorization for all starting pay rates of $15 or above. All work-study student employment positions must have a posting in Handshake. Visit csusb.joinhandshake.com to begin posting your department job openings. It is highly recommended that you attend a Handshake training session offered through our Campus Career Center. You may contact our Campus Career Center directly at extension 75250 or by dialing 909-537-5250. Each work-study position should have a job description that includes the following: the name of the department and division, a clear job description, job qualifications, the pay rate, and the length of student employment. The name of the student worker's supervisor and a contact phone number and email address must be included.
Placement deadlines.
New and continuing students must secure and be placed in the work-study program by October 31st of each year. Instructional student assistant positions are open until filled. Students may not work prior to the beginning of the term. The following are time reporting instructions. Please make sure that the electronic timesheet that is located on the Office of Financial Aid and Scholarship website is used. Make sure your student reports time in military hours. The electronic timesheet computes to daily, weekly, and monthly totals. No hours should be reported for any time other than the payroll period. Attach class schedule to the timesheet. Adhere to the 20-hour per week rule. Annotate the timesheet if a class was canceled by CC or excused early with EE. If a student works during class time, these two indicators must be listed. Timesheets are to be signed by the student supervisor and program administrator. There are no provisions for a paid lunch. The Fair Labor Standards Act mandates a half-hour, 30-minute unpaid break be provided for every 6 hours worked per day. Students are entitled to a 15-minute break for every 4 consecutive hours worked. Fax a student listing and timesheet to the Office of Financial Aid and Scholarships every month. Revised student listings must reflect the correct hours on the listing. Corrected timesheets can be submitted directly through Adobe eSign. If you have any questions, contact the Financial Work Study office. Only the supervisor assigned to the student is authorized to sign a student's timesheet. Students who falsify timesheets are subject to termination and disciplinary action by Student Conduct and Ethical Development. On this slide, we've provided you with an example of the work-study timesheet. The student must complete the timesheet in its entirety. The student should include the student's name, ID, and class schedule. Student supervisor and program administrator are required to sign the timesheet at the end of the month. The timesheet calculates the time in military time on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. There are only provisions to report time twice a day. Students are to retain the timesheet for their records. Submit a copy of the timesheet and student listing to the Office of Financial Aid and Scholarships. The Work-Study Student Payroll Calendar is located on the Office of Financial Aid and Scholarships website at the Student Employment link. The Payroll Calendar provides information when payroll is due, the maximum hours a student may work, and when they can expect their paycheck. Year-end mass terminations will be completed for all work-study student assistant positions. These usually occur at the end of each academic year. Financial work-study student employees must be paid and final hours submitted to payroll. If they've graduated, if they separated from the university, or if they are terminated. Termination includes contact payroll regarding students' last check, and you may also contact the Financial Work Study Coordinator. Student employees must be legally paid on their last day of employment. The student's final hours must be submitted to payroll, and an X must be placed in the separated line of the form submitted. Students who resign must be processed within 72 hours after notification. A copy of the final student listing and timesheet must be submitted to the Financial Aid and Scholarship Office. This concludes the Work-Study Supervisor's training. The following information will be useful. You may contact Patricia Aguilera, the Financial Work-Study Coordinator, at paguiler@csusb.edu. Please note the Work-Study Office is located in University Hall, room 150. The Work-Study Counter Services office hours are Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Summer hours are Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The Supervisor line, call extension 75479 or the Student line at extension 75226. You may fax your documents to the Office of Financial Aid and Scholarship at 909-537-7024. Thank you for completing the annual Work-Study Supervisor training. This concludes the online Work-Study Supervisor training.